The helmet smashed into the old man's shoulder before anyone even heard the motorcycles. He cried out, collapsing sideways onto the concrete as coins scattered from a styrofoam cup. Gravel skidded and engines roared as 3 bikes tore into view, carving through the quiet evening like a buzzsaw. They screeched to a stop outside the roadside diner, dust kicking up, chrome flashing in the last of the sun. The leader barked a laugh. "You're blocking the view, Grandpa." Another rider shoved the old man's backpack aside with his boot. The third knocked over his drink with a slow, deliberate kick. Liquid soaked into the gravel like it was nothing. Inside the diner, everything stopped. Forks hovered midair. A waitress froze with a pot of coffee halfway to a table. People stared, but no one moved. At the back booth, Jason Statham stirred his black coffee. He hadn't spoken, hadn't blinked, just watched. Outside, the leader unhooked a steel chain from his belt. It dangled at his side, links clinking like warning bells as he stepped toward the old man again. Jason folded his napkin, stood up, and stepped through the door. The biker smirked, until Jason's boots hit the gravel. The air shifted. He had no idea who he just provoked. But he was about to find out. Before we proceed, like and subscribe to catch Jason Statham's epic face-off with Cocky Biker Gang, and comment where you're watching from today. The roar of the engines had finally faded, but the damage had already been done. The old man lay hunched near the sidewalk, clutching his shoulder, coins scattered in the gravel around him. The bikes now sat like beasts cooling off, chrome glinting under the buzz of a half-dead neon sign that flickered more than it glowed. A hot wind whispered through the lot, kicking up dust around the tires. The cicadas had gone quiet. Inside the diner, nobody moved. It was the kind of place where truckers came for black coffee and locals sat in silence over pancakes. But now, all conversation had vanished. The silence wasn't calm, it was coiled. A breath waiting to be exhaled. Jason Statham sat at the back booth, still as a shadow. His black leather jacket hung over the seat beside him. Dark jeans dusted with road grit. One hand loosely wrapped around a chipped mug of untouched black coffee. No sugar. No cream. Just bitter heat cooling in his grip. He hadn't looked away from the window since the helmets came off. He hadn't come here for trouble. But trouble hadn't cared. Outside, the 3 bikers had dismounted like they owned the ground they stood on. The leader, Rex, was thick, bald, and built like a truck with legs. A skull tattoo crawled up his neck like it wanted out. His eyes searched for someone to humiliate. Most days, he found them. Spike was all twitch and gum-smacking attitude, pacing like he couldn't wait to break something. Diesel, the quiet one, didn't speak. He didn't need to. One look told you everything he'd ever done, none of it legal. They didn't come here for food. They came for show. And right now, Frank was the stage. Locals just called him Frank. No last name. No story he ever told. But the military jacket with the faded patches said enough. He swept the diner's porch in the mornings. Ate leftovers out back. Kept to himself. Polite. Grateful. And invisible. Until tonight. Tonight, he wasn't background noise. He was the target. Jason's eyes hadn't blinked since Rex stepped forward. A whisper rolled across the counter. "Those bikers again." Someone near the window said, "They're gonna hurt him this time." No one moved. No one dared to. Except one. Jason's knuckles flexed lightly against the table. His jaw held steady. But his stare locked. Outside, Rex started walking. The chain unhooked. And Jason Statham was about to stand. Rex's boots crunched closer across the gravel, slow and deliberate, the chain in his hand swaying like a serpent. He stopped just a foot from Frank, looming over him like a storm cloud. "You deaf, soldier boy?" Rex growled, voice sharp and cutting. "I said you're done sitting here. Streets for real men, not dusty old ghosts." Frank didn't look up. His hands trembled as he gathered his tattered backpack, the fabric worn thin, a corner duct-taped to hold it together. His voice came quiet, strained. "I ain't both Aaron, nobody." "Exactly," Rex snapped. That's the problem. A styrofoam coffee cup inside hit the floor with a thud. Someone gasped. A fork clinked against a ceramic plate, and the diner fell deeper into its silence, a silence that now buzzed with electricity. From the far booth, Jason stood. The sound of the door creaking open was louder than it should have been. Every head in the diner turned. His boots hit the concrete with a calm, steady rhythm. Each step felt like it carried weight, like something unseen had shifted. He stopped 5 feet from Rex. Hands loose by his sides. Shoulders square. The wind teased at the edge of his black jacket. He said nothing. Rex turned slowly, chain still dangling. His smirk twisted even wider. Well, look who's here. Hollywood royalty. Spike snorted behind him. You gonna autograph my bat, movie man? Diesel, still silent, cracked his knuckles, 2 slow pops that sounded like breaking branches. Jason's eyes didn't flinch. He wasn't looking at the chain, the bat, or the brute in the back. He was looking at Rex, through him. You his babysitter or something? Rex chuckled, motioning toward Frank with his chin. You know him? Or are you just the type who can't mind his own damn business? Jason didn't speak. He just took 1 step closer. The gang tensed. The diners watched through the glass. A teenage boy near the window whispered, That's him. That's Jason Statham. Yeah, right, someone muttered back. No way he's out here. But no one could stop watching. Jason raised his chin slightly. Not a threat. Just awareness. His presence was like standing at the edge of a cliff. You didn't need to fall to know it was dangerous. Spike paced behind Jason now, trying to circle. Bet he thinks he's in one of his little movies, he said, voice loud enough for the whole diner to hear. Bet he thinks he's the hero. Jason still didn't speak. He just shifted his stance, barely. But it was enough. Inside the diner, the air felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. A waitress held her breath behind the counter. The old man near the window hadn't blinked in 30 seconds. And outside, the chain stopped swinging. Rex's smile didn't fade. But the edge of it cracked. The chain in Rex's hand began to spin slowly. He let it swirl in lazy circles, the links clinking softly, like a rattlesnake warning just before it strikes. You really think this is your business, movie man, he said, voice low but carrying, each word coated in venom. Because I promise you, this ain't one of your pretty little sets. Jason didn't answer. He blinked once. Then took a slow, controlled step forward. The chain stopped. Inside the diner, the air had thickened. People leaned forward in their seats without realizing it. A young boy near the window whispered, Is that really Jason Statham? His friend shushed him, eyes wide, gripping the edge of the booth. A woman across the aisle fumbled with her phone, trying to open the camera app without making a sound. Plates had gone cold. The sound of a neon light flickering above was suddenly loud. Still, no one said a word. Outside, gravel shifted beneath biker boots. Rex's sneer returned, uglier now. Let's teach the action star what it feels like in the real world. He gave a quick tilt of his head. That was the signal. Spike peeled right, circling wide like a predator, tapping his bat against his palm. Diesel moved left, his boots crunching with slow menace, every step like a countdown. The 3 formed a triangle around Jason, tightening it inch by inch. Jason didn't move. His body was still, but his senses were on fire. He scanned them one by one, Spike's twitchy stance, Diesel's weight-shifting posture, Rex's overconfidence. He saw it all. Calculated it. Spike barked. Come on, tough guy. You always this quiet, or just when cameras ain't rollin'? Diesel cracked his knuckles with 2 slow pops. Guy's frozen. Just another fake. Jason's eyes flicked briefly to the side. He wasn't frozen. He was centered. Dialed in. Like a man who had rehearsed every possible outcome, and was now waiting for someone to pick the wrong one. Inside, Frank watched with clenched hands, face tense with fear. He knew what could come next. He had seen it before, in a different uniform, in a different war. But he had never seen anyone like Jason. Spike circled farther, trying to get behind him. "Hey, I'm talking to you. You deaf or just dumb?" Still no answer. Jason's breathing was steady, shoulders loose. He was pure control. Then, he nodded. A single nod, barely perceptible. Not for them. For himself. The moment he gave himself permission. Rex's eyes narrowed. "All right. Let's dance." He lunged. The chain cut through the air like a whip, a sharp rush of steel aimed straight for Jason's head. Inside the diner, someone gasped. Frank squeezed his eyes shut. A waitress covered her mouth with both hands. A tray shattered behind the counter. Silverware hit the floor. Time snapped. The diner had been a held breath, and now it exhaled into chaos. The chain slashed downward, fast, brutal, reckless. But Jason didn't blink. He moved. His head slipped just inches to the side. The chain missed, biting into empty space with a snap loud enough to startle birds from a nearby power line. And then he was in motion. Spike flinched. Diesel stepped forward. Rex's grin finally cracked. Something had shifted, and everyone felt it. The triangle had closed. But Jason had just opened the fight. The chain missed by inches. Jason's head moved just enough. Fluid, instinctual. The steel link sliced air and hit nothing but fading momentum. Before Rex could recover, Jason grabbed his wrist, twisted with sudden violence, and a sickening crack echoed off the diner walls. The chain dropped, thudding into the dirt. Rex screamed, but only for half a second. Spike was already moving in. He raised a metal pipe high, aiming for the back of Jason's skull. The crowd gasped. Jason spun low. The pipe whistled overhead, cutting through empty air. A grunt. Then a thud. Jason rose from the spin, planted his feet, and drove an elbow into Spike's ribs so hard it made a sound like a tree trunk splitting. Ugh. Spike folded. Air gone. Pipe dropped. He stumbled sideways, coughing and choking, arms clutched tight to his chest. Diesel's boots thundered forward. Quick, heavy, unstoppable. The big man aimed for Jason's chest, shoulder down, bulldozer style. Jason didn't resist. He slipped aside, grabbed Diesel's jacket collar, and let the man's own speed do the rest. Diesel slammed into the side of the diner. The impact rattled the window panes. Inside, the silverware on the nearest table jumped. Someone let out a choked scream. A waitress dropped a coffee pot. Ceramic exploded on tile. Outside, Diesel groaned, then slumped like a sandbag collapsing. Jason exhaled once. Rex stumbled upright, panting hard, one hand cradling his wrist. Face red. Eyes wild. His voice cracked with rage. "You're dead, you hear me? You're—" He charged. Jason didn't move. He didn't blink. He waited. One last time. Rex swung wild with his good arm. A wide, desperate hook aimed straight at Jason's head. Jason ducked effortlessly, rose, and answered with a clean, brutal punch to the gut, like a hammer hitting soaked wood. Whump. Rex folded in half mid-run. The air fled his lungs in a choking cough. He collapsed face first into the gravel, groaning, twitching slightly, and then still. Silence. The whole world paused. No music. No chatter. Not even wind. Inside the diner, no one clapped. No one cheered. They just watched. In stunned awe. A man near the front whispered, "That was Jason Statham." Another voice picked up, quiet, breathless. "He didn't even speak." "Did you see that elbow?" someone else muttered. "He took down all three." Murmurs began to spread. Chairs shifted. Phones were raised again, shaking in hands. The camera flashes came too late. Most of it was already over. Jason didn't pose. He didn't grin. He simply stood there, eyes scanning the scene. Rex groaning. Spike curled on his side. Diesel wheezing against the wall. Boots scuffed behind him. Jason turned slightly. Frank had stepped outside. He stared at the wreckage, then looked up at Jason, eyes glassy. Jason gave him a single nod. Frank returned it slowly, like two soldiers recognizing each other in a foreign land. Inside the diner, a teen's voice broke the silence. "Dude, I'm posting this right now." Someone laughed, but it was nervous, uncertain, like they were still trying to process what they'd seen. The crowd inside stayed behind the glass. No one came out. No one dared. Jason didn't wait for them. He turned around and walked back toward the diner door, not a word spoken. Gravel shifted under his boots. Slow, steady, measured. As he reached the steps, a man at the counter inside moved instinctively out of the way, not even realizing why. Jason paused at the threshold. He looked back once. Rex was still on the ground, not moving. Jason stepped through the door, letting it close behind him with a soft click. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind, that would stay for a long time. The dust began to settle. The only sound outside was the groaning of broken pride. Rex shifted on the ground, tried to rise to one elbow, but his muscles betrayed him. His breath came in wheezes, eyes half-lidded with pain. Diesel hadn't moved. Spike coughed quietly, still curled on his side, cradling his ribs. Jason walked past them. Not a word. Just the slow, steady rhythm of boots against gravel. Each step echoing like the final beat of a war drum. He stopped beside Frank, who hadn't moved. The old man looked up, eyes wide, voice dry. "You all right?" Jason asked, calm as ever. Frank nodded once, though his hands were still trembling. "I've seen a lot in my life," he whispered, voice cracking. "But I've never seen anything like that." Jason didn't respond with words. He just reached down, grabbed Frank's arm with a firm but careful grip, and helped him to his feet. Frank winced but stood. Taller now. Straighter. Inside the diner, the front door creaked open. The waitress stepped out, hand still over her chest, her voice barely audible. Are you really?" Jason didn't answer. Just offered a slight nod. He walked past her, calm and casual, back to his booth. The coffee still sat untouched. He placed a folded bill beneath the mug, then turned, and walked out the back door. No speech, no smirk, no final stare. Just footsteps fading into the dark, and a silence that followed him like shadow. Strength isn't noise. It isn't shouting, or swinging, or trying to be seen. Real strength is stillness. It's in control, precision, restraint. It's in knowing you can, but choosing when. Rex sat in the gravel long after the crowd dispersed. He didn't speak, didn't rage. His fingers dug into the dirt like he was trying to hold on to something, anything. His mouth moved like he had something to say, but the words never came, because silence had spoken louder than any threat. Jason didn't fight to show off. He fought because someone needed to be protected. And he didn't gloat, because that's not how real men finish things. If you believe strength is action, not noise, share this story. And remember, the loudest guy in the room is never the one you should fear.